If it starts to lag at any point, by the way, I find turning the video off helps. I don't know if you record video in the interview or just audio, but...
Oh, I do both.
Okay, well, let's see how it goes, I guess.
Yes, let's see how it goes. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on Thrashers Paradise. I am joined with a very unique man. He is part of a very different band that we've had on this channel. They are a power prog project from Calgary called Red Cain. I am joined with frontman Evgeny, who's very impressed I didn't fuck up his name.
No, you nailed it twice in a row now, so it's pretty cool. And happy to be here, by the way. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, you are welcome. Thank you so much. I'm not sure if you're the one, but do you run the Instagram of Red Cain?
I do. And you know what?
Okay.
I meant to apologize to you because I remember you asking me, and we got in touch before, and then I went through my messages and I couldn't find your message, and I couldn't find or couldn't remember what account it came from. So I was like, oh man, I dropped the ball.
It is all good, but thankfully John Asher saved the day and was able to help us figure this out and set it up. No, I was actually about to bring that up. Like, I think around the summertime, we talked briefly about you coming on, and you're like, I'll ever do it closer to the release of our new album.
Yeah.
And the time has finally come.
Boom. And we're here. And Asher made it happen.
Yes, thank you, John. I'm afraid I'm going to mess up the album title. I've been calling it Kind Red because I don't want to mess it up together. So Kind Red Act 2. How off am I from the actual pronunciation of it?
I mean, that's an English word, so I think I've always heard it referred to as kindred.
Kindred,
from the word kin. So, but close.
Close. But we are here to talk about Kindred Act 2, which will be released on January 22nd of 2021. And Kindred Act 1 came out around the same time this year. Was that planned to have it be released around the same time a year from now?
Kind of. So we didn't keep to a strict schedule, but we had a goal of releasing an album per year nominally. And it just so happened that with a bunch of things aligning and misaligning, we are dropping it almost exactly a year from the last one, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I do have to say. And I just got to ask, as a fan and as an interviewer, I do have to know, what is the biggest difference from Act 2 compared to Act 1?
So they were meant to be different, thematically and musically. So loosely, without diving too much into the concept behind the album, the first Kindred album was meant to be kind of a dark side album, in the sense, in a thematic sense as well, looking at the mythology behind some of the tracks, but also in a musical sense, it was more somber, more muted, more melancholic. Whereas Kindred Act 2 is supposed to be almost a flip side of that. So it was supposed to be a more bright side album, and the brightness came out in the songs as well. They're faster, more aggressive, they're kind of more in your face, and the thematic content is very much consistent with that musical direction.
Yes, and I do have to say that is very evident in the latest single, Varyag and the Shrike, which I gotta say, I was listening to it yesterday before the interview, and before planning for this interview, I had the time briefly to listen to this one in particular. It just came out on the 7th of October. If you haven't heard it yet, I recommend it because holy shit.
That's a good reaction. I like that reaction.
It's a very good song.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I love it. I think it's amazing. It's definitely something I'm not used to hearing from the independent scene from Canada. And I think that's what I love most about it, is because it stands out from the rest. And that, and the amazing artwork that came with it, and the other singles, Kindred, Demons, Sunshine, Blood Sun Empire. Like the artwork that came along with these singles is amazing. And I gotta ask you personally, what made the band want to go with all these very different like album or single covers for these songs?
Which is an awesome question, and I'm actually glad you asked me that because I want to talk about the art, and I this is the first time in this particular interview cycle over the last few interviews that somebody's asked about it. So sick. Yeah, the reason we did that was twofold. So I've always had this ambition to create more than just music, and I mean, Red Cain in general is a vehicle for telling stories. And you can't just tell stories musically or verbally. You need to have often a visual element to it. And it's something we weren't really able to do with the last album. We did it to an extent because we had a music video, we had some art, we had lyric videos. But I wanted to take it a step further and to really allow the listener to understand the concept behind songs visually. And like I like visuals. I'm a big fan. I dabble in art myself, and I actually sketched out basically all of these visual ideas for each song based on what I guess I wanted to add to the musical element. And I think that it works very well together. Part of what we want to do is we have a concept, and every song has a meaning and a message and a story, if you will. But we also want to leave plenty of room for the listener to overlay their own experiences on it, to get something out of there that's unique to themselves. And the art is a great way to do that because it looks cool, it adds to the song, but it's also very abstract. And if somebody wants to look at it while listening and get a different, message to come through, that's fucking fantastic. Like, I love that. And I think partially on the flip side, for me and for us as a band, creating the art also colored the tracks. And the process went hand in hand. We actually, we didn't finish all the tracks and then did all the art. It was more like every time we were working on a specific track, the art was being worked on at the same time. And so as the track developed or as the art developed, they went hand in hand and they complemented each other. And what went into the music and went into the art was parts of the same whole. So you couldn't really separate the two. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. The artist we used, Piotr Jamroz from Poland, fantastic. I link his Instagram everywhere. He just nailed it. He basically added everything we wanted him to add to the images, and he the mood that he put into his art is just crazy good. So yeah, that's basically why. And we're hoping it's going to have the same kind of impact that it had for us to create it.
Yeah, well, I always felt this about the metal industry, and that's we can only go so far as what the artwork looks like, because when you go to a record store, for those who still actually buy CDs in person, you besides looking for the band type, the bands you'll love, you do try to find something new, and for that, you always look towards the artwork to see what exactly entails with the band. And I gotta say, as a fan, I love it that each one has its own unique signature artwork for each song, and it tells its own story with each song tells a different story. And I think that's awesome.
Thank you very much. That's what we want to hear.
You're welcome.
It's a tradition with us a little bit, I guess, because when we released our first EP, which I'm not sure if you've heard, but of course I'm here to urge you to listen to it because we wrote it, so you may as well. But it's self-titled. It's just called Red Cain. We somehow lucked out into getting Peter Moorbacher, who does a lot of Magic the Gathering art, to do the cover for that EP. Which is
awesome.
Crazy, right? It was our first release, and we actually won a couple of best metal artwork awards on various websites and stuff. But ever since then, we were like, holy shit! We can't overlook this. We need to keep pushing with the artwork. So
yeah,
and you're absolutely right. People judge the album by the cover, and they should. It's an integral part of what the music is.
Now, when it comes to releasing albums, a band always wants to release a single just to give fans a teaser to what to expect to come from their next release. You released 4 singles for this next album. You released Why am I having difficulty with Sunshine?
Because it's a long name, probably.
Sunshine, Blood Sun Empire, Demons, Kindred, and Varyag and the Shrike. Like, I have no issues with that one, but Sunshine for some reason.
That's okay. Close enough, I think. It's your interpretation of the track, right?
Right.
I can't say no to that.
So you released each 4 of you. Now, as a band collectively, which single did you all find you were arguing or debating the most about to release as a single?
I'm going to turn that question back on you. Well, not back on you, but back around in a sense. Because we actually wanted to release every song on the album as a single. That was the original plan. Like, no kidding. We decided to do that. We just couldn't execute fully because of a variety of circumstances beyond our control. One of them is a big 5-letter word called COVID. But basically, yeah, that was the plan. And it's something that I find interesting to talk about because there's basically a well-trod path with bands about releasing singles, albums, how many singles, when to release them, all this kind of stuff. I'm not really a big subscriber to that. I think it works, and I think it worked for a long time. But when you're looking at how people consume music in the modern era, people don't generally buy albums. I mean, they do, but at the same time, it's mostly digital. It's mostly streaming. It's mostly stuff like Spotify, Apple Music, name it. And it's all driven by singles. And our job as artists is to find the most streamlined and the most effective method of delivering our music to our audience. That's literally a responsibility. So if I'm finding that people who listen to our music are more likely to listen to a single and then to buy the entire album when they listen to the album, that's the way I go. And it did work quite well for the 4 singles that we released. We had a lot of response, very positive response. We had people playing on Spotify, streaming, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it would have worked just fine for the other singles. We're still planning to release the other 3 as singles after, or maybe before, I don't know yet. We have to decide. But they're probably going to come with videos and extra content, so we won't just drop the singles after the album drops. But
Okay.
it's a good way to consume music. I think the album and the physical album in particular has become sort of a collector's edition these days, especially now that people can't actually leave their houses to buy music. So we don't want to like stack it in the back of some store and no one's going to be able to actually come and get it. So the single way works. And the other thing that it allows us to do is releasing a single allows us to put a lot of context around it. So whereas on the album, there are a lot of songs that kind of get lost and not focused on. With singles, we're able to add things like the art. We're able to add stuff like the story elements. We're able to explain more about what went into writing this single and why we did it. So for us, it's just an extra avenue to like present to our audience and our fans what went into making this particular song. And I think that's kind of awesome.
Awesome. Now, the first single to be released out of the 4 that are currently out right now was Sunshine.
Boom.
I finally got yes. Sunshine, Blood Sun Empire. What made you all collectively as a band kind of agree to let that one be the first single from the next act from the Kindred series?
So yeah, it's interesting. We had a long discussion about whether Sunshine was going to be the first song on the album or the last song on the album. And out of that came out discussions about it being the first single. And the discussions were mainly around introducing the theme behind Kindred Act 2. Sunshine as a track is basically a microcosm of all the content within the 2 albums. So if you look at the concept behind the albums that we kind of like touched on a little bit in the various singles and the write-ups for them, it's centered around an Aztec protagonist, Aztec warrior, Zalcoatl, who is basically his duty is to ascend this alien pyramid, an alien steel ziggurat that, if ascended by the greatest hero of his people, will have the sun god's blessing upon his entire tribe and will essentially prevent the sun from falling out of the sky and evaporating and destroying life as we know it. So that's kind of the framing device, or the framing story for the entire album. And so Sunshine is, as the entire song, start to finish, is his journey within the labyrinth. That's within this pyramid. So his ascension to the top. And it kind of starts with him entering, and it finishes with him, well, spoilers, I guess, ending up on the top of this pyramid. So we were like, well, we can't not have this as a single, given it's a framing device for the entire album.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of drove the decision, and we decided to just go with it and put it out there as the first single. Have a story added to it, and we did release like a little bit of a short story to give context. And we released the art, and we kind of gave people a taste of what the album's going to be about.
Now, when it comes to creating a concept series of albums, is there at first writing a story to try and figure out what you want the albums to be about, or is it just writing the lyrics and then the story comes through as the lyrics are coming out of you, I guess?
It's a totally valid question, and I can't say that there's like consistency in it. We kind of knew, I guess, or I knew at least, where we wanted to take the story. There were some things that were pretty undefined that were driven by the songs themselves. I'm not going to lie. I'm a big believer in fairly organic songwriting. So a lot of my songwriting generally kind of flows, and I like to let it flow when possible. So the skeleton, let's say, of the story was kind of born at the beginning. It was actually born with Kindred. That was the first track of this album. That was the earliest track we wrote for this entire 2-album saga. And so the story kind of came out of that, and we knew more or less where it was going to go. And then we filled in some gaps, and we constructed some various elements out of it. But the songs, the beautiful part about writing music is that if you collaborate on it, or if you just have a solid writing process and you kind of use your subconscious and various other elements, you don't really know where you're going to end up. And like some of the songs were like took us in a totally different direction where we were expecting. Like there's a couple of songs where we're like, all right, we're gonna do this like nice thrashy metal track, it's gonna get everybody headbanging and everything else, and then we're like, fuck, like this turned into like some weird prog ballad. Actually, Precipice of Man on this new album, I'm not sure if you had the chance to listen to it yet or not, but Precipice of Man is the third track. It's like probably the weirdest track on the entire album, and it's got this like heavy part in the middle that is like comes in pretty suddenly, and that was originally what the song was supposed to be. And so like we kept part of it, obviously, and I think it does work. But yeah, it turned into this like kind of like weird but cool melodic ballad slash almost like a groovy 80s arena rock song. And it started as like a super thrashy headbanging kind of track. So things like that definitely drove the way we also took the story, because sometimes you stumble upon this incredible vocal line or like super cool lyrical phrase and it just works, and you're like, well, okay, what would my character do in this part of the song, and like how would that influence how I write the rest of the album? So yeah, sorry about being long-winded a little bit. It was just
no, it's okay.
Yeah, but generally we knew where we were going. It's just how we got there was a little bit of a winding path.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I guess one of the questions I'm very curious about, and I'm probably not the first one to ask this, but what did drive you to combine prog with power metal?
I wish I had a good answer for you, but I don't. We all had different backgrounds, and I mean, like, I I guess I'm responsible for a lot of the weird bullshit in terms of genre that we end up doing. And that's fortunately or unfortunately because I have so many musical influences. Like basically my mother's side of the family are all musicians.
Oh.
And I grew up on like Russian pop music and various like I don't know if you know like that Trollolo meme, which I'm sure everybody knows it, but like that kind of music, like very Soviet kind of hymn type music. I grew up on that.
Okay.
And a lot of that influenced my later choices. Then I had like a bit of a like trance and Eurotrance phase when right before I moved to Canada. So that kind of like put its a little bit of share in there. And then of course I discovered metal and rock, and I was like, fuck yes, like this is it. And my initial influences were like goth rock.
Okay.
So I started with like Typo Negative,
Okay.
Him, 69 Eyes, like that kind of stuff. Finnish bands like Karan. So all of that was like my stuff at the very beginning, and I just like loved the shit out of it. And it's actually how I started to want to learn to sing properly. Because I found out I was a baritone. I was like, holy shit, Villy Valo from Him is also a baritone. I need to like utilize it somehow. Like, and I always wanted to do music to some extent. Like it was part of my life already. So we just kind of like threw all that together, and then I had I had a few friends who played with me in bands, and a lot of them participated in the first album, and then some of them left to do their own stuff, and then I found other talented people, and they wanted to pitch in. Of course, it's like a fairly democratic process to write, and so inevitably, whatever came out, the closest approximation was like power prog. Power because we had clean vocals most of the time, I guess. And I like power metal. Don't get me wrong. Like I love that shit. I absolutely love power metal. I think it's one of the greatest genres ever. People can say whatever they want, but I also love all the different other kinds of metal. And the more we wrote, the more complex our songs became. The more different kind of stuff we wanted to try, and so naturally you gravitate toward prog. But I mean, like I had another interview a couple of days ago, and the guy was like, "You guys aren't power prog. Like, come on, you've got this like death metal song in this album, and like, you've got black metal influences. What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong." So,
just
I think it's just easier, I guess, for people to like. You have to choose something, right? So we're like, okay, 60% of our material kind of falls into power prog, so let's do it.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to label ourselves as.
Yeah.
No one judge us.
Exactly. I think so.
Now, because you are such a unique band with such a unique and different sound compared to a lot of the other bands I've personally heard from the Calgarian metal scene and even the Edmonton scene, for you personally as the frontman, and I'm assuming one of the main contributors to booking shows for the band, do you find it harder to find shows to perform at, or do you find it easier to get shows?
Not harder anymore.
Okay.
When we started, it was a little bit of a wild west in terms of bands that were similar to us. I think 3 or 4 years ago, Calgary wasn't super well known about its like clean vocal scene. Let's say that.
Okay.
I think we're still like there's some very strong death metal bands, black metal bands in the city, and that was kind of like traditionally what Calgary was known for. I think the only band that I can remember that really made it out of Calgary that was more power prog was Cobra and the Lotus. Basically it. However, we know a lot of fantastic bands that fall pretty squarely within a genre. I'm going to name drop some, actually. A Siren from Calgary are very good friends. Tyler, their bassist, is like our guitarist on this album. So we're like super tight. We always talk. We played plenty of shows together. Those guys are awesome. Check them out. They just released another album, by the way, too. So we like love the shit out of them, and we put the best shows on together. So we actually like we met up with them when they started getting active like a couple of years ago, and we were like, okay, play the same kind of shit, have the same kind of fan base. Let's do it. Let's do a bunch of shows together. Yeah, a couple of other bands. I mean, we have Ravenous, Eternal Hunger, also another great Calgary band. They play a very similar style, power metal. So we played a couple of bills with them. There's another good local band, our good friends, Benevolent Like Quietus. They're a goth rock band.
That's how you say the last part of their band name?
There you go. Yeah, you know, like we're learning all kinds of shit here, like how to pronounce stuff, like, and I'm not even English.
No.
So
I think I should just start learning English from you from now on. We just do a monthly English lesson, and you tell me all the proper pronunciations from the Calgary metal scene.
little known fact, I have a degree in English. It's like its only usefulness is like things like this. So, yeah.
That is too hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of fitting too that the front man has a English degree.
Yeah, and a business degree. It's like all I need to be a front man.
Oh shit, you're set. You're set.
Well, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, all of those guys are basically like our good friends. We played a ton of show with them, and we tried to book stuff together. So Calgary's actually been awesome in terms of bands that are similar to us now. So I really can't complain.
Yeah, no, I think that's great that there is a lot of diversity in that Calgary scene, because from what all of what I was hearing was just like death or thrash, you know, like because of Death God, Hazard, Hyperia, bands like that, and now just hearing the other, what else is there in Calgary to offer, I think it's really cool, and it's very exciting because I gotta say this. Calgary and Edmonton really do have a very underrated metal scene.
Super.
Like, a lot of the bands that you all have in Alberta are really damn good.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have killer bands. Not to undermine the rest of Canada.
Yeah.
Just
Oh
like,
no.
Western metal is like kicking ass right now. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, like there's so much good stuff out west I never expected. Like, outside of Vancouver, like there's actual good stuff outside of Vancouver.
Yeah, well, Vancouver is like the king, but no king rules forever.
Exactly. Eventually, they are dethroned by the next.
We'll hope. It's going to be hard to top like Unleash the Archers, but you know.
Like you said, every king gets dethroned.
Well, you can have a lot of kings too, I guess. It's metal.
Yes. A round table.
Yeah, totally. That's a good idea. Canadian band round table. I like that.
That and it's not even a show or a concert. It's just a Zoom call because of COVID right now. It's just a mass Zoom call.
Yeah. I think we'll have to have one at some point.
Yes, a band from each province is represented. Boom.
Yeah.
For you, is the Kindred story done after Act 2, or is there still more to be told?
Yeah, I think there's always more to be told. It's our first experience with world building. And I'm lucky enough to have listened to many bands that build fantastic worlds throughout their work. The ones that stand out to me, Camelot, of course.
Yes.
Like Camelot are one of my favorite bands. For me, like not many bands can top that. Their story spanned 3 albums, obviously. With Epica Karma and Black Halo. And for us to be able to write a story that deserves to be featured on that many albums is a good challenge. I think the main Kindred arc will end at Kindred Act 2. I'm not really a big fan of extending stories among like a shit ton of albums. I know some bands like to do that. I have nothing against it, but I think you can put it in a different direction and label it a little bit differently. So,
Mhm.
will we revisit that world? I think we owe it to ourselves to try. And if there's enough interest from the fans, we owe it to ourselves to try. It might not be in a full album sort of scenario. It could be in some other content. It could be a music video. It could be
Cool.
stories. It could be more art. I actually did write like short stories for every song on the album, and to kind of like give it context. And we released a couple of them.
Mhm.
So maybe what we'll do is like I'll find the time to finish those stories and have like an anthology of something. I don't know. I don't sound too pretentious. Like we're a band writing a book. It's kind of like, come on. But at the same time, I think it's a good story. I think we've done it rather well, and
Mhm.
people seem to like it. So we might still revisit it. There's a lot of kind of stuff that didn't make it onto the albums, that probably could be cool to either listen to or see in other ways.
Awesome. Now, I asked this to Brittany of Unleash the Archers when I
Mhm.
had the pleasure of interviewing her, and we both know as fans the story of the matriarch and the immortal through both Apex and Abyss.
Mhm.
The question I asked her was, well, because she had the Magic and the Gathering game based on the albums. For you, what other platform or medium could you see the Kindred story being adapted to?
Yeah, interesting, interesting. Um, yeah, Britney did nail it with those with the stories in those two albums. I think they did a killer job, honestly. Um, and I think it translates well to like Magic the Gathering sort of stuff, and even
Mm-hmm.
more. With ours, I'm a big fan of like old school RPGs. Um, so like I cut my teeth in like Diablo One
Oh.
and Planescape Torment, stuff like that. I think it would be really cool to have like an isometric RPG have our concept and have like a story going through that, like Baldur's Gate style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it lends itself pretty well to that, and there could be a lot of cool shit visually or otherwise that could be introduced. So if anything, like I would pick that. Yeah, let's leave it there. There could be, I mean, other mediums could work.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to think a little bit more, I think our songs are very cinematic. People like overuse the shit of the word cinematic in metal these days, but I think cinematic is something that you can like draw a picture of, I guess.
Yeah.
And we've actually like drawn pictures of our songs. So yeah, I think in a visual element, I could throw in like layers and layers of more detail into those pictures, or like zoom out and write even more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those would look pretty damn cool. So that's my second answer in terms of how they could be used and the story could be used.
Awesome. Now, Evgeny, I've kept you for over half an hour now, and it's been a great conversation talking to you. I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, and I've had a lot of fun talking to you right now. But I do want to let you enjoy the rest of your night because it is like still pretty early in Calgary, unlike me because it's already almost 9 here.
Mhm.
God, Ontario. But I do have one last. I have one last question to ask you, if that is okay.
Absolutely. You can ask even more than one. I'm enjoying this too.
Oh, okay. You tempted me. Okay,
Go for it. Yeah.
great. For you personally, when it came to, or okay, I know what I want to ask. Now that Kindred Act 2 has already been like, you're now promoting it, you're now getting it ready for it to be like unveiled to the world and all that. Is the band ready because of COVID? Are you guys ready to move on to the next thing after Kindred Act 2? Or are you gonna wait a bit and savor the hype and the emotion from Kindred Act 2?
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. COVID really threw a damn curveball into everything.
Mm-hmm.
we had 2 festivals booked, and we were kind of like loosely talking about a potential Canadian tour or part of Canada. So I think we have to decide where to go from here. I think it's important for both artists and listeners to kind of digest the music further in a live environment. I know for me personally, having the songs written and released on an album, I always like yearn to go and play them on stage, to feel the songs like on a very direct personal level, and to feel the reaction of the audience and to kind of experience what they are in real time. And we haven't had a chance to do that, unfortunately. So I think we would want to explore that option and play some shows if at all possible. If not possible, I think we're going to take a little break in the sense that we want to focus on this additional layer of content. We plan to do a music video for this album that we also couldn't do because of COVID. So that's pretty high up on our agenda. Whenever we're able to do a full-fledged music video, I think that's the way we're going to go. And then, of course, the live shows. We do have material that we could roll with if we wanted to. So that's not going to be an issue. It's just a matter of finding the right timing. And I think given that we live in such unpredictable times, we're going to play it by ear, and we're going to see how this plays out. And we're obviously going to see how the album plays out too. It's still early. Like, I don't know. People are going to hate it. People can think it's total shit.
From what I've heard so far, I don't think people will hate. I think, honestly, because we do our own awards here at Thrashers Paradise, I think it could be up there for 2021. I think it could be.
That's flattering. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Just the song alone. Varyag. Oh, damn it!
Varyag and Shrike.
Yes, that one. Really. Just that one alone. I think that could be a 2021 Song of the Year nomination.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. I love that song too.
Really good.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Genuinely. I think it's a very cool song, and like, yeah, it's what you want to hear, right? As a musician, yeah. Well, why do you? Let me ask you a question. What do you like about it? What specifically drew you to that song? Like, out of, I guess, the other ones, what do you think makes it unique? What did we do well? What did we like suck at?
Good question. That is a good question. Well, because at the beginning of when I started listening to metal, I was like hardcore into thrash, and I was starting to find out a lot of thrash bands just sound so similar, and that they just blended two together. So I strive myself to try and find the more unique, more different sounding metal bands to truly appreciate and truly fall in love with. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to this song in particular, because I do have a huge appreciation for progressive and power metal, like bands like Stratovarius, Dream Theater, just to name a few, because if I kept going on with naming bands, I'd probably be annoying you 2 hours later.
I could probably do the same thing. So we'd be sitting here naming bands one after the other. Yeah.
Yes. But when it came to this song, I felt it was a good collaboration of both the power and the prog elements that the band identifies with. And I just felt overall when listening to it, it is a song that I could probably listen to for an entire day and not even notice the day go by.
Nice.
Because I'd be that deep into the song. There's no part of the song in particular that stood out. It's just the whole song in general that stood out. And I think when it comes to like even deciding what a song of the year should be or what an album of the year should be, I don't think it should be just one thing that sticks out about a particular song or the album. It should be the entirety of said song or album that sticks out. And I felt with that one, the entire song stuck out and it sounded amazing and kind of refreshing just to hear something like that out of this whole year of just listening to mostly death metal and thrash metal, because that tends to be a lot of the songs you do hear from the independent Canadian scene. So no, I just I think as a whole song completely, I think it's amazing and truly just a wonderful, wonderful, one of a kind artifact that one day down the line, when people go, "Oh, what's this Red Cain song?" They're gonna go, "Holy shit! I regret my entire decisions in life up until this point."
That's very flattering. Thank you very much. That's actually a really, really cool feedback that I wasn't really expecting to hear into that detail. But no, thank you. It's really what we're aiming for. You know, like you write a song and you're almost like falling in love with every piece of that song as you're writing it.
Mm-hmm.
So to hear that every portion of the song is at a high level and that you enjoyed all of it is really the highest praise that I can think of. And it's cool too because I think Varyag and the Shrike is one of the most positive songs, like uplifting almost with its message and the way it's written in both the albums. So it's pretty appropriate right now, I guess, when everyone is kind of like doom and gloom to have a song like that. So yeah, it's really nice to hear. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Well, you asked, so
yeah, fair enough.
I tried to give a good answer.
No, that's a great answer.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Now, during this time, a lot of bands have been struggling a lot, but through sites like either the band's own personal website or even Bandcamp, they've been able to try and salvage some money from lost sales or income that they were struggling through this year because of lack of shows and in-person interactions with the fans and the audience. And from what I've noticed a lot, and I do have to shout out a local band here, a local death metal band called APOC, for doing this. They were doing limited edition, like they come out with a design for a certain piece of merchandise and you can only get it through a pre-order.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it and it went very well. And I've talked to them and they said that they could be doing it again in the future. So I was wondering with you, would that, when it comes to merchandise, would Red Cain consider maybe potentially doing something like that to offer a limited edition pre-order item?
I think for sure. The way we used to do it is we used to do a run of shirts that were tied to an order, or well, maybe a pre-order. So for when we released our music video for Juliet from the last album, there was a custom shirt art like design for it that we did a limited edition run for, which is also pretty successful. Mm-hmm. So I think once we get closer to the album release, it's tough right now just because a lot of our like partners in the local scene that we use to make shirts and etc. Are shut down because of COVID. So we would have done it by now. We still have the option to do it and order elsewhere, some online store, but we like to work local. I think the local scene, there's some like fucking fantastic people in the local scene. Like we get shirts from Dan, who's the singer from Benevolent Like Quietus, actually. He's been hooking us up for a long time, and I think it'd be difficult to go elsewhere to get our shirts. Mm-hmm. And of course, I think it'd be hard for him right now given COVID. So I think we may or may not wait. We may give something else as merch. It's just a matter of making sure that we're also working with like local artists, local designers. And I don't know, people overuse the whole thing, like local, organic, like homegrown type of shit. But I think it's pretty underrated. Like it is important. We have a small scene in Calgary. We have a lot of people who are doing a lot of awesome work in the scene for like next to no money, and they're contributing their time and their effort and all this stuff. So I think as bands, we owe it to ourselves to make sure that we work with these people in like all the different capacities. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if we do end up doing a pre-order or some kind of cool merch or whatever else, it'll be with somebody locally, and it'll be at a time when we can actually like serve the people in a way that makes sense. Like you sell most of the merch at shows. I think it's super cool to see people like buy your shirt, put it on, and then headbang to your song. So if we can do that, we'll do it. But otherwise, like I'm anticipating that after the album drops, we're going to have an entire like 6 months or whatever of various kinds of promotion and special releases and like the next video, the next single, whatever else. And I think we'll find a way to do something cool for people. So yeah.
Okay. one last merchandise question, because I am very curious about this, because I know that it's this with Western Canadian metal musicians. And I would appreciate if you could tell the Ontario musicians to do this. Why do y'all get long sleeves? Like,
Oh man,
it's like every Western band I see has a long sleeve, and yet here in Ontario, I know 2 bands with long sleeves.
it's cold here, mate. It's like minus 30 in Calgary. Well, not right now, but it can be.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I personally like both, but I get long sleeves. I'd fucking love to get long sleeves if bands made them. So I don't know why exactly, but it might have something to do with the temperature. Yeah.
Can you please tell the Ontario bands to do that? Like, I understand
I can do it.
we're not as cold as you all out west, but still, we get pretty cold here.
Well, think about it. It's more stylish. There's a lot more like real estate for your band to like advertise on if you have sleeves. So
Right?
so yeah. And if you work out enough and you have like a skin tight thing, your sleeves are gonna be like pretty good. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just different too, right? Like every band and their grandma has t-shirts. If you have a long sleeve, it's like, oh, all right. Like this band went a little bit extra, might as well fucking buy it.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
Yeah, it's a bit of a game changer. Like experiment. I don't know. Like we have a couple of bands locally who made like underwear and stuff.
Underwear?
Yeah. So and like various other things like as kind of jokes. So people bought the shit out of them. So I suggested go for it.
The less serious you take the item, the more people will want it.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. Like, we shouldn't take things too seriously. We do enough serious shit on the album and like a concept and all this kind of shit. And like the way we practice our craft, like obviously metal musicians are like the most serious about how well they play. So everything else can be a bit of a joke. That's fine.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I know as we talked earlier, we did discuss you are originally from the motherland known as Russia.
Mm-hmm.
You are officially the first Russian to come on Thrashers Paradise. For you personally, I am very curious to know, do you keep up with the Russian metal scene at all?
I do somewhat.
Okay.
It's not easy because Russia has a lot of bands. And a lot of those bands don't get like a ton of exposure aside from playing live. Russia has a very well-developed live scene, and a lot of bands kind of like do the traditional route of cutting their teeth on the live circuit, and only then do they do releases. But there are a lot of Russian bands that I love, and I have always loved, and I still follow them. They're still active. So yeah, I do follow them quite a bit. There's a legendary Russian band called Arya. Not sure if you heard of it. I'm sure a lot of people have. They're like the Russian version of Iron Maiden. They have the same kind of longevity, like similar style. They're like fucking legendary. They're actually signed to the same distribution label as we are.
That's
It was actually like one of the main reasons I was like fucking pumped about signing to our label right now is because they had Arya on the roster, and I was like, holy shit, no way, we have to. Like I've listened to this band since I was like 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do keep up, and the Russian scene is very good. Ukrainian scene is also very good. I mean, I'm sure you know Ginger, that came out of Ukraine.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of really good bands, and I think a lot of those bands are on par with any Western bands. So it's actually really nice to be able to go and listen to songs in Russian with Russian themes, and see a lot of these bands also doing well.
Actually, second last question. That kind of inspired this next question. Could you ever potentially, with Red Cain, ever write a song in Russian?
Almost did it. There was actually this is an interesting story. So there's a song that didn't make it on this album that I wanted to do almost entirely in Russian, and there's actually 2 reasons for that. The first reason is that my grandma wanted me to. So my grandparents are like My grandpa is a very good musician, probably the best musician I know. He plays everything. He lives in Germany right now, and he plays accordion for a massive choir. So he probably draws more fans than we do to his performances. But yeah, he taught me a lot about music, and so whenever I write new songs or we release a new album, I always send it over to them and have them listen and so my grandma is the one who actually puts a stamp of approval on the songs. And she goes like, okay, this is too complicated. This is too loud. Can't hear your vocals. Like, I don't know what this is, type of thing. And so, shit, what was your question initially about? It's like,
would you ever write
a song in Russian? That's right.
Yes.
I was like, oh, damn, I have to send this to my grandma, and I totally forgot. So yeah, the song in Russian was partially for them, so because they don't understand the lyrics, right? And so they always ask me like, what are you writing about? What the fuck is in these songs? Like, are you writing about Satanism? Like, what's going on? And they're like, really, like Soviet, kind of like very upright morally, and they're like, metal? Like, what do you mean metal? So partially I was like, okay, I'm gonna write one song in Russian. It's going to be really good. It's going to have like some killer themes. They're going to listen to it, and they'll never ask me again what the songs are about. And then the second part of it was that this song actually, no joke, came to me in a dream. And I had this entire dream, and it was like this whole like Russian steppe setting, and there was various elements, and there was like a girl performing the song, and like with composition and everything else. And so usually you wake up and you don't remember shit, but this time I woke up and I was like, holy fuck, I remember like most of this song. So like 4 a.m. I got up and I went and like wrote it down actually, and wrote surprisingly most of it. And so I've been saving the song for like 3 fucking years, and I just like, I was like, okay, when the time is right, I'll release it in Russian. And so I think the time will be right sometime maybe during the next year as a single. And it'll be a Russian song. But generally I'm open to it. And I think at some point we'll do it. And we almost did it on this album. And maybe we'll get a Russian like guest vocalist or something like that. We love guest vocalists. I just couldn't get anybody because of COVID once again. So
of course. And I couldn't tell with Kindred Act 1 when it came to the guest features. Like, what guest features?
What do you mean?
What do you mean? No, you had like what 3 or 4 guests.
We did. Features. Yeah. Kindred Act 2 didn't have any, so it was kind of inconsistent. I agree. Kindred Act 2 had me like featuring on falsetto vocals and growls. That was the only guest feature we had. So.
One of the guests being the lead singer of Cobra and the Lotus.
Yeah, who is awesome, and her contribution kicked ass. And she was actually really awesome to work with, and I give her a shout out whenever I can because she's like super cool person.
With that said, please listen to Cobra and the Lotus.
Boom. Also from Calgary.
Yes, do it for Evgeny.
Well, it's not like they need any more promotion, but but yes, absolutely do it for me.
Do it for Juno-nominated Cobra and the Lotus.
That's right.
Yeah, like how many Albertan bands were nominated for that Juno this year?
I'm not sure. Juno's, yeah.
Because I know Striker and Cobra and the Lotus got nominated for Metal Album of the Year.
Totally. And I mean, those are probably the brightest lights right now at our performance for sure.
And it's like, at least we're recognizing the Albertan metal scene.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. If we shout loud enough, eventually everyone's going to take notice.
Oh, of course. One day we just see Red Cain, Hyperia, Benevolent, like Quietus.
Yeah.
Okay, I was saying it right for some point.
I think Hyperia moved to BC, so we've lost them.
Oh, that's right. I forgot they moved to Vancouver.
Yeah. It's okay. We have plenty of talent left over here.
Of course.
We can more than hold our own at this point.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I do have one last question to ask you because we've almost been talking for an hour now.
That's fine by me.
I know.
As long as the conversation's interesting, I'll talk for as long as I need to talk.
I mean, I think we've had a good interview. Wouldn't you say so?
I think it's a great interview.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
We asked this to all of our first-time guests making their first inaugural appearance here on Thrashers Paradise, and we just asked it for a fun little thing. Who would win in a fight, Lemmy or God?
Aren't those the same thing? I'm not quite sure.
Yes, you're correct. Lemmy is God, so there would be no fight.
Yeah, Lemmy's not going to punch himself in the face. Come on. Got to punch other people in the face.
Yeah, Justin Bieber.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, Justin Bieber is not even relevant anymore. So Justin Bieber is like a little blip on the radar where it's like, Lemmy's forever.
Yes.
Good question, though. I like it.
Thank you, Evgeny. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to join me right here to talk about Kindred Act 2, due out January 22nd, 2021. Is there anything else you would like to say to the people watching this on YouTube?
Oh, man, there's a lot of things. But, I mean, I'd be a bad businessman and musician if I didn't say listen to our album, but also listen to everybody else's albums. Like, we've actually name-dropped a lot of good Calgary, Canada, BC, whatever bands. I think there's at least like 6 or 7, if not more. Go listen to all of those bands.
And the Russian band.
And the Russian band, yeah. But I mean, the local bands is where it is really. Like, we have so many fucking fantastic musicians. Canada is amazing in the metal scene and music scene in general. Like, you'll always find something you're gonna enjoy. And a lot of these bands like work their asses off to bring the material to their fans. Like, I was reading something about Brittany from Unleash the Archers doing like over 100 interviews or something like that. Like,
yes,
that's emblematic. Like, it doesn't matter who it is, large or small. A lot of these bands will go out of their way to either talk to somebody or like give you their music or play a show or like run a tour to like some super small fucking city or village in the prairies somewhere. So support them. That's how it goes, top to bottom. Like, all these bands are fucking deserving of your support, and they'll return the favor too. So, do it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Joel, support your local metal.
Absolutely. Yeah, support your local metal. Awesome. And thanks a lot for having me, man. I'm really appreciative of this.
You are so welcome.
This is a fun interview. This kicked ass.
Thank you. Well, I say this to everyone, and this goes to you. You are more than welcome back on whenever. Definitely message me whenever you can find the account I messaged you on.
Yeah.
for the next interview. But no, again, thank you so much for doing this. I really do appreciate it.
Me too. This is fun. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And until next time, everyone, keep on thrashing.
Yeah.